Imagine. Sarah found herself at the edge of Central Park, her eyes shut, inhaling the brisk autumn air. The usual New York City chaos was strangely absent, replaced by an eerie calm. When she opened her eyes, she was met with a sight that made her gasp. The towering skyscrapers that usually dominated the skyline had vanished, replaced by a vast expanse of rolling hills and lush forests. Confused and disoriented, Sarah stumbled into the park. As she walked, she noticed other people emerging from the trees, their faces mirroring her bewilderment. A man in a business suit approached her, his tie loosened and his eyes wide with wonder, as if he had just stepped into a world of magic. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Where are we?" Unable to comprehend the situation, Sarah shook her head in disbelief. It was then that she noticed her attire had undergone a dramatic change. Her designer suit and high heels had been replaced by simple, comfortable clothing made of natural materials. As they ventured deeper into the park, they encountered more people. Some were crying, others laughing hysterically, but most wore expressions of stunned disbelief. Sarah noticed that everyone's clothing had changed, becoming more straightforward and uniform, devoid of logos, brands, or signs of wealth or status. In this shared experience, they found a strange but comforting unity. Around her, a group was forming, drawn to the older woman who seemed to exude a sense of calm and wisdom. Her silver hair was tied back in a simple braid, and her eyes sparkled with a depth of understanding that was rare to find. "My friends," she said, carrying the gathering crowd, "I believe we have been given a great gift. A chance to start anew, to build a world without the divisions and conflicts that have plagued us for so long." Sarah felt a strange sense of peace wash over her as she spoke. The initial panic and confusion began to fade, replaced by a profound curiosity and a growing sense of possibility. The older woman introduced herself as Elena and explained that she had experienced a vision the night before. In her dream, she saw the world transformed, stripped of the artificial constructs that had separated humanity for centuries. When she awoke, she found herself in this new reality. Over the next few days, Sarah and the others explored their transformed world. They discovered that not only had the physical landscape changed, but the very fabric of society had been altered. There were no nations, borders, or governments as they had known them. People communicated freely, finding that language barriers had mysteriously disappeared. As they ventured beyond the park, they found small communities forming naturally. People gravitated towards tasks they enjoyed and were skilled at, sharing their knowledge and abilities freely. Sarah, a corporate lawyer in her previous life, was drawn to mediating disputes and helping people find common ground. One day, while helping to establish a communal garden, Sarah conversed with a man named Michael. Before, he had been a wealthy CEO, but now he worked alongside everyone else, his hands calloused from tilling the soil. Yet, there was a light in his eyes, a sense of fulfillment that Sarah had never seen in him before. "You know," Michael said, wiping sweat from his brow, "I never thought I'd say this, but I don't miss my old life. All that money and power, it seems so meaningless now." His words echoed the sentiments of many in their community, a testament to the profound change they had all undergone. Sarah nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. "It's strange, isn't it? We've lost much of what we thought was important, but gained something far more valuable." As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, their new society began to take shape. Without the pressures of capitalism and consumerism, people found they had more time for creativity, building relationships and exploring their passions. Art flourished, with murals and sculptures appearing throughout their community. Music filled the air, not from recordings but from impromptu performances and communal sing-alongs. Education also took on a new form. Instead of rigid institutions, learning became a lifelong community-wide endeavor. Elders shared their wisdom, artists taught their crafts, and everyone was both a student and a teacher in their way. Elena addressed the group as the community gathered for their nightly meal one evening. Her face was etched with lines of joy and contentment, a stark contrast to the worried expressions she often wore in the old world. "My friends," she began, her voice strong despite her advanced years, "I want to share a story with you. Many years ago, a man had a dream. He imagined a world where people lived in peace, the artificial boundaries we created melted away, and humanity could finally reach its true potential. That man put his dream into a song that touched millions of hearts across the globe." Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine as she realized who Elena was talking about. She had almost forgotten about the music of the old world, but now the memory of that particular song came flooding back. Elena continued, "That man dared us to imagine a different world. And now, my dear friends, we are living in that world. We have been allowed to turn that dream into reality." As Elena's words sank in, Sarah looked around at the faces of her new family. She saw hope, determination, and love reflected in their eyes. She thought about the life she had left behind, the endless pursuit of wealth and status, the constant competition, and the loneliness that came with it all. In this reimagined world, she had found something she never knew she was missing: genuine connection, purpose, and peace. The following day, Sarah woke early and climbed to the top of a nearby hill. As the sun rose, painting the sky in brilliant hues of pink and gold, she looked out over their community. Gardens and orchards stretched below her, interspersed with simple but beautiful dwellings. In the distance, she could see other communities, each unique, but all part of this grand experiment in human cooperation. As she stood there, Sarah felt a presence beside her. It was Michael, his face glowing in the early morning light. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said softly. Sarah nodded, unable to find words to express the emotions inside her. "You know," Michael continued, "I've been thinking a lot about why this happened. Why us? Why now? And I've come to believe that it doesn't matter. What matters is what we do with this chance we've been given." Sarah turned to look at him, seeing the passion in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean that we can show the universe what humanity is capable of. We can build a world based on love, cooperation, and mutual understanding. We can prove that the dream of peace isn't just a fantasy, it's a real, achievable goal." As they stood there, watching the community below come to life, Sarah felt a surge of determination. She knew the path ahead would be challenging, with challenges, disagreements, and old habits to overcome. But for the first time, she felt genuinely hopeful about the future. Over the next few years, their community flourished. They learned to live harmoniously with the natural world, developing sustainable practices to thrive without depleting the Earth's resources. They created new art, music, and literature forms, celebrating their humanity. And most importantly, they never stopped working to maintain the peace and unity gifted to them. One day, as Sarah taught children about the importance of empathy and understanding, she noticed Elena watching from the edge of the clearing. After the lesson, she approached the older woman. "Elena," she said, "I've meant to ask you something. That first day, when all of this began, how did you know? How did you understand what was happening when we were so confused?" Elena smiled, her eyes twinkling with that same spark of wisdom Sarah had noticed on that first day. "My dear," she said, taking Sarah's hand in her own, "I didn't know. Not really. But I chose to believe. I saw this change not as a loss but as an opportunity. And in doing so, I helped make it real." Sarah pondered Elena's words as she walked home that evening. She realized that their new world wasn't just something that had happened to them, they were actively creating it every day, with every choice and interaction. Sarah paused as she reached the top of the hill where she often came to watch the sunrise. The sky was ablaze with stars, more than she had ever seen in the light-polluted city of her past. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, feeling profoundly grateful for this second chance they had been given. At that moment, Sarah made a silent vow. She promised never to take this gift for granted, to continuously work towards maintaining the peace and unity they had found, and most importantly, to keep imagining new possibilities, new ways of living and new heights that humanity could reach. As she opened her eyes, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Sarah smiled, feeling as though the universe itself was acknowledging her promise. She turned and headed back down the hill, ready to face whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, secure in the knowledge that she was part of something truly extraordinary, a world reimagined.